When lakes dry up, people usually expect to find cracked mud, stranded boats, maybe a few old soda cans. But what happens when the water drops so low that things nobody was supposed to see suddenly rise to the surface? Today we're going through 10 real lakes that revealed something so terrifying. When they dried up, the scientists, police, and entire towns were left stunned. It all begins with a story that shocked the entire United States. Imagine walking along a shrinking shoreline and suddenly spotting a metal barrel. You go closer, you open it, and inside is a human skeleton. That is exactly what happened at Lake Mead in 2022. As the lake reached its lowest level since it was created in the 1930s, decades of secrets suddenly surfaced. The most disturbing were the human remains. Multiple sets of remains were discovered in different parts of the lake. One of the most famous finds was the skeleton stuffed inside a metal barrel. Police quickly determined it was a homicide victim who had been shot. Based on the clothing and style of the shoes, investigators estimated that this crime happened in the 1970s or the 1980s, which raised a terrifying question. Was this connected to organized crime in Las Vegas? Locals had whispered rumors for decades that mobsters used the lake as a dumping ground because it was deep, dark, and nobody expected it to ever dry up. But in 2022 and 2023, the shrinking lake exposed boats, plane wrecks, old settlements, and the remains of people who had disappeared without a trace. This next lake revealed something terrifying, not because it exposed a crime scene, but because it uncovered a mystery that goes back nearly 600 years. Lake Poyang in China is known as the place where ships disappear. Locals call it Asia's Bermuda Triangle because vessels vanish without any explanation. And when the water levels dropped dramatically in 2022, something chilling came into view. Shallow sandbars and dried out channels revealed the wrecks of dozens of ancient ships, some dating back to the Ming Dynasty. What shocked experts was the condition. Many of the ships looked like they had sunk suddenly and violently. Some wood was splintered, some hulls were torn apart, and yet there were no signs of battle. No records of storms, no historical explanation for why so many large vessels went down in the same region. Researchers believe Lake Poyang's shifting sandbanks create sudden whirlpools that can swallow ships whole. But even that does not explain every wreck. When the lake dried up, archaeologists counted more than 30 vessels in a surprisingly small area. Many of them still had cargo inside. The drying lake did not solve the mystery, it only made it worse, because now the scale of the disappearances is larger than anyone imagined. When a lake dries up and reveals artifacts, that is normal, but when it dries up and reveals evidence of an entire civilization that scientists did not know existed, that is something else entirely. Lake Cahuilla in California is a massive ancient lake that has filled and dried multiple times throughout history, the last time in the 1600s. But recent research, especially during the severe droughts of the 2010s and the 2020s, revealed a terrifying detail about what happened during one of those dry cycles. Archaeologists found abandoned villages, fishing equipment, and stone tools scattered along the newly exposed shoreline. But the strange part is the number of footprints. Human footprints, hundreds of them. They were preserved in hardened mud and ranged in size from adults to very small children. But the reason these prints terrified researchers is the discovery that many of the prints show people running. Some show signs of slipping, a few appear to be falling. Experts studying the direction and depth believe the community fled the area in a hurry, possibly due to sudden environmental crisis. Something forced everyone to run. Iran's Lake Urmia was once one of the largest saltwater lakes on Earth. Today, it is a terrifying reminder of what happens when a lake collapses almost completely. When Lake Urmia began drying up in the 2010s, satellite images showed something frightening. Huge cracks and sinkholes opened up across the lake bed as the ground dried too fast. Scientists warned that the exposed salt fields had become toxic. Winds could now blow salt and chemicals into towns miles away, causing respiratory illness and destroying farmland. But the most disturbing find came during field surveys. Workers discovered abandoned villages and roads that had been swallowed by the rising salt years earlier. Foundations of homes sat twisted and warped. Rusted cars were trapped in crystallized salt. More frightening was the discovery of abandoned ship graveyards. Barges and transport vessels were found stranded miles from the shrinking water, frozen in place like massive skeletons. Lake Urmia did not just reveal artifacts, it revealed an entire human-built world that the lake had slowly consumed. The lake bed became a place where people were warned not to walk across because new cracks could open under you at any moment. The drying lake exposed a disaster zone that is still dangerous today. Lake Issyk Kul in Kyrgyzstan is deep, cold, and surrounded by mountains. It is one of the last places you would expect to find an entire medieval city underwater. But when water levels dropped in the early 2000s, and again during later droughts, ruins began to emerge along the shallows. Archaeologists investigating the exposed structures discovered walls, foundations, pottery, and even the remains of a Christian church. The city is believed to date back to between the 10th and 12th centuries, but the strangest discovery was a collection of graves near the shoreline containing remains of people with injuries consistent with a fast and unexpected catastrophe. According to local legends, the settlement was destroyed by an earthquake. Evidence from the ruins does support this. Buildings appear to have collapsed all at once, but what terrified researchers was that the city did not just collapse, it sank. Parts of it slid under the lake within hours. As the lake dried, more ruins slowly became visible, revealing a city that was once vibrant but wiped out in a single day. When Lake Texcoco in Mexico City dried centuries ago, the Aztec capital was built on top of the former lake bed. But in recent drought periods and construction projects, terrifying discoveries have continued to surface from the mud. The most unsettling finds have been ritual platforms and sacrificial altars. Archaeologists uncovered stone structures used for religious ceremonies that involved both human and animal offerings. One platform revealed dozens of skulls arranged in a circular pattern. Another contained remains of wolves, eagles, and jaguars, all animals with symbolic meaning in Aztec religion. But the most shocking discovery was a massive skull rack. It contained the skulls of men, women, and radiocarbon dating placed these remains at around the late 1400s to the early 1500s, right before the Spanish arrived. The dried lake revealed not just artifacts from Aztec culture, but the darker side of their rituals preserved in the mud for centuries. This next lake revealed something that shocked archaeologists around the world. Something so old and so detailed that it rewrote what we know about early North American hunters. When water levels dropped in Lake Huron, researchers used underwater drones to explore the exposed rock formations. What they found were stone hunting structures called drive lanes. These are arranged walls that ancient hunters used to corral caribou. But here is the terrifying part. These structures are 9,000 years old, and many were discovered more than 100 feet below the modern lake surface. This meant one thing. The lake used to be a dry valley, a valley where early humans built massive hunting traps with engineering skills nobody expected for that era. Some structures include stone blinds where hunters waited. Others form long corridors forcing animals into narrow kill zones. This discovery reveals a level of planning and organization that scientists thought only appeared thousands of years later. The lake drying did not just reveal ancient tools, it revealed an entire human-designed landscape that had been hidden underwater since before the pyramids existed. In northern Italy, Lake Resia hides one of the most haunting sights on Earth, a church tower rising out of the water like a ghost. But when the lake is lowered or partially drained for maintenance, what emerges around that tower is chilling. Underneath the lake lies the old village of Huron. In 1950, the town was flooded to create a hydroelectric reservoir. People were forced to leave, homes were dynamited, and the entire town was submerged. But drought years revealed something horrifying to the families who once lived there. When the water dropped far enough, the foundations of their old homes rose again. Stone walls, old cellars, roads, even steps leading to houses that no longer exist. It was as if the village was trying to come back. Visitors describe walking through the exposed ruins as one of the eeriest experiences in Europe. The church tower above the water is already unsettling, but seeing the village reappear around it is a reminder of how quickly an entire community can be erased by rising water. Florida's Lake Okeechobee is known for fishing and airboat tours, but when the water dropped dramatically in the early 2000s and again during later droughts, something terrifying was exposed. Cannonballs, musket rounds, human bones, and the remains of military trenches. The lake revealed evidence of battles from the Second Seminole War, a conflict that took place in the 1830s. The most disturbing discovery was the remains of soldiers and Seminole warriors buried in shallow graves that the lake had covered up for nearly 2 centuries. Archaeologists found remnants of clothing, uniform buttons, and fragments of weapons. Some bones showed signs of combat injuries. Many were found only a few inches beneath the lake bed. These discoveries exposed a violent chapter of American history that had been hidden underwater. We end with one of the strangest lakes on Earth. Lake Cerknica in Slovenia is a disappearing lake. It completely dries up every year and then fills up again. But during a particularly dry year, researchers finally explored areas normally too deep to reach. What they discovered is terrifying. Underneath the lake are massive underground caves and sinkholes that act like drains. These holes literally suck the lake into the ground, but some of these caves are far larger than scientists expected. Explorers found tunnels stretching for miles. Some chambers were big enough to fit a house. The most frightening discovery was powerful underwater currents that continue to flow even when the lake looks empty. Researchers dropped sensors into some of the holes, and several were pulled so fast that they vanished deeper into the cave system. Some sensors were never even recovered. Locals have legends about animals falling into the disappearing lake and never being seen again. After mapping the caves, scientists believe these stories might be true. This lake is a gigantic natural drainage system that connects to miles of underground channels, and nobody knows how deep some of them go. Alright guys, that has been our list for today. Thanks so much for checking it out. I've been your host today, Olivia Kozlowski, and I'll see you again soon. Goodbye.